Greetings and salutations.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, hello.
Morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Let me
I'm trying to
see.
log on from my computer. Is this all we got today, Christina?
Let me check with Jahira. And Tyrone should be joining.
All right, let me know when we're ready to get started.
Okay. But with both of them, let's see what they say. Jahira will be joining shortly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Still haven't heard from Tyrone, but I have messaged him so I can let you know when he responds.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
To the folks who I just seen one. Jahira, great, good meeting today.
Appreciate you being
Hopefully
there,
it-
man.
Yeah, hopefully it ended well. I mean, there's, there are some issues on that street that they're dealing with, man. That just kind of all the good stuff, but I meant to call you afterward and
Yeah,
share
let's
that.
chat later if you want. We can chat this afternoon. I have two meetings back to back this morning, but I appreciate you being there too, man, and asking some really good questions.
Yeah, you see, they just put up a fence over the park that they've been wanting for like years.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, damn.
So I mean, I'm organizing works. We do, but it's months too late, and it was a stabbing there the other night. So
Oh, I didn't realize there was a stabbing there the other night.
them ladies sick of it.
Every time I go around there, there's always people though. I'm like, I don't know. You guys need to go do something.
I say my speaker is broken because I hear you guys so in this corner. I have to check it out after this meeting, but I can hear. So I have not yet heard from Tyrone. If you want, I'll quickly screen share the
Yeah,
agenda.
and let's move forward because I have a hard stop at around 9:45. So I'm gonna do it as much as we can. this evening or this morning? All right, so Christina, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, but I got your message. I don't mind Dr. Curtis jumping the line for our meeting. I mean, who wouldn't let Dr. Curtis jump?
Go first.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
All right. Good morning to, is this gonna be online or on YouTube? We good?
Yes, it is. It's streaming now.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the, what are we? April 11th policy meeting of the Hartford Board of Education. My name is Pastor AJ Johnson, Vice Chair. We have Board Member Yahaira Escobano on, Board Member Francois Tresto Ledger on. We have Dr. Bethany Silver and Dr. Tiffany Curtis. As you see on your screen, this morning we have an agenda, but I'm going to make an amendment to the agenda to start with our Juneteenth agenda item, as I'm sure Dr. Curtis has to go out and employ the world. So I'm going to allow Dr. Curtis to kick us off with our Juneteenth agenda item, and then we'll go back to the top of our agenda to equity policy, alternative education programs, which is the second reading, first reading of student attire, first reading of student governance councils, recodification, and some discussion on legislative and advocacy committee and bylaws, public statement. So Dr. Curtis, the floor is yours. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here and for your jokes. I do appreciate it. I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Silver because I'm just here to support her in introducing this or talking through it. So any support she needs or any clarification, I'm here for Dr. Silver. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. My apologies. Dr. Silver.
Let me know if you need me to.
Yes, I don't know if I got all of the messages.
Okay, so yeah, sorry. Let me give you the background of why Dr. Curtis is here. So I think there's just some wonderings amongst the board, and I'm sure everyone now that Juneteenth is a federal and a state holiday, how the district would operate if we had snow days and the school days spilled over past June 19th, or if not, sometimes there's teacher professional learning. What would happen then? From my understanding, we are treating it as a student holiday only. So that's why I invited Dr. Curtis on the call to help explain and give the board members a chance to ask any clarifying questions of how the Hartford Public Schools would treat Juneteenth, if it came to that.
Thank you, Christina. So sure, I can jump in and explain. So the Office of Talent Management, in collaboration with our outside counsel, has recommended that the board adopt Juneteenth as a student holiday, which means it would only require a modification of the school calendar. So that means that typically every school year, if you count the number of days that we're in school, if we don't have any snow days, then we would actually end before Juneteenth. So that means it wouldn't have a fiscal impact on the district. And if 11-month and 12-month employees actually wanted to take that day, they could just use a vacation day to take it. However, if we have snow days, Juneteenth could not be used as a contingency day because it's actually a school holiday. So you'd have to extend the school year by 1 day because you wouldn't be able to use that actual day as one of your makeup days for snow days. If we do not make Juneteenth a student holiday and the board considers making it a holiday in general, like an employee staff holiday, it would require us going into bargaining with every unit, and it would be a significant cost to the district. So the recommendation again from OTM is that we adopt it as a student holiday in the new school calendar.
When you say adopt, you, just bring us through the process of an adoption.
Well, so for the sake of OTM, we're recommending that it be a student holiday, which means that the district calendar has to reflect that. And so I'll defer to Christina and Dr. Silver regarding how, because essentially, Reverend Johnson, the board would have to name Juneteenth as a district holiday, which we haven't done yet, right? So OTM is saying, if you do in fact decide to adopt it as a district holiday, please adopt it as a student a holiday in the calendar as a student holiday.
And that then enacts the process that you mentioned, where it will be a time in which staff members and employees can request use a vacation day to take. You know, quite frankly, we're just not. And yeah, as you stated, we have snow days that may never happen, and we may never ever stretch to June 10th, right? Or
Exactly.
so they're able to take Juneteenth in May if they would like to.
No. So what would happen is if we never had a snow day and the school year ended, so now we're out of June comes around 12-month employee. And so
Sorry, Dr. Curtis, we're losing you, I think. Am I the only one? I
No,
can't hear
No,
her.
you're not the only one.
Okay.
No, you're not.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think
it's just
I think
for a
you're back.
moment, but go ahead. Yeah.
Or how much you missed. If we did not extend the school year because there were snow days and all 10-month employees were out on break and students were out on break, you still have 11 and 12-month employees working. So as a 12-month employee, the holiday Juneteenth could come around, and it's not a staff holiday for the district, but if I want to take that holiday off myself as an employee, then I can use a vacation day to take it off. It's just that the entire district is not closed that day because we recognize it as a student holiday, not as a district holiday where every employee is off for the day.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions on this agenda item?
I have a question. You're saying, so I'm inclined to make it a district holiday for everyone, regardless, staff, teachers, students. So I'm inclined to know, Dr. Curtis, I understand there's financial implications. Can you specify how much of a financial implication we're looking at if we were to adopt an entire district holiday, not just for students? How much of a are we talking about ballpark?
So I'm not able to speak to that. That would be a Phil Penn question. I know it's a significant cost to the district, but not only is it a fiscal cost, we would have to go back in with every bargaining unit and we would have to bargain over this holiday, because it's not as easy as saying everybody's off for Juneteenth, because every bargaining unit bargains over the holidays that are in their collective bargaining agreement. So just because we're off for the day doesn't mean that the day doesn't have to be made up. It's a very challenging process because every CBA is different. So it's not just a fiscal implication, it's like a bargaining implication also.
Thank you. Shahira, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, Francois, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. As a Black teacher who's been teaching for many years, and a parent of Black students, Black children, and the significance that Juneteenth has, I would, definitely vote for it to be, a district holiday, because for too long, students, staff have been, deprived of this day. And, there's so much that's happening, especially in these days, where we need to, everyone needs to feel valued. Everyone needs to be recognized. And this is a day that should not have to come out of someone's vacation time. I understand, or what I hear is that it will be, costly to, to make this happen, but I believe it's necessary. That's all I have to say.
Okay, if there are no other comments about this, Christina, I think, and Dr. Silver, I think what I'm hearing is, I think we want to go down the road of adopting it. And I'm not sure if that's something that can happen with the time that we have left to do. And if it is something that we can do, I would say let's start heading in a direction.
Okay, if you'd like, I would also get Chief Penn's input on the, just so you have all the information, and then go down the road of adopting. You're right. April, May. Actually, you might make it. But yes,
Yeah,
we'll explore.
we have two meetings,
Mhm.
2 board meetings to see, and again, that's something light, but certainly let's double check it. If Dr. Curtis was kind enough to come on this call, Chief Penn, the purpose of reaching out to Chief Penn would be to what?
If you wanted to have an estimate on what the actual cost would be, if at all. If not, then that's.
If I can make another two more statements, AJ Johnson, is that fine?
Yes, ma'am. Go for
I'm
it.
sorry, Reverend Johnson. One is the majority of the district, if you adopt it as a school holiday, the majority of the district would benefit from it, because the majority of the folks in the district work in schools. So teachers, students, paras, those folks are in schools, and if it's a school holiday, they benefit from it if we extend the school year to June 19th. Secondly is, if we adopt June 19th as a holiday, we'll be setting a precedence that'll be hard to pull back in the future around paid holidays in the district calendar. So I just want to put out there that there's a lot to think about. I too, as a woman of color, believe that this is a significant holiday. I also do recognize that there are ways in which we could allow folks to celebrate it without having to have like far-reaching consequences for the district that may be hard to pull back later.
Yeah, that's fair, and I appreciate that. Jaira, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just very quick, and I see, thank you, Chair Johnson. I see Francois's hand. I'll be very quick, and I agree with Dr. Curtis right there. But I don't take any of this lightly. Same thing as Indigenous Day, the same thing as Juneteenth Day. I think we should move forward, and I agree with the adoption of this, at least to have to make it for June for our students. I 100% agree, but I do think it's worthwhile for us to explore the financial implication with Phil Penn and go from there and have those conversations if it's something we want to do in the future. I'm not saying it needs to happen now, but I do think it's worthwhile for us to explore and continue to have those conversations.
Okay, thank you. Francois, did you have a question, or is that an old hand?
No, it's a new hand. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, new hand. So one thing, well, I'm going to say 2 things. One, I believe if we're able to do it sooner than later, I would, definitely hope that we can do this sooner than later. The other thing that you could explore, which may take time, is, if it's not a day off for the students, then it would have to be, or make it a day of professional learning for students and staff. So, so I attend, and I'm gonna, just talk briefly. I attended Kingswood Oxford School for high school, and on Martin Luther King Day, this is back in the day, instead of us having the day off, there was a day, they made it a day where it was a day of observance. So we were in school. However, there were assemblies, there was a lot of learning and a lot of education around the movement and the mission of Dr. King. So that's something that I would be willing to, if you'd be willing to explore, if you don't want to give, everyone the day. But once again, going back, I believe, if we're able to do this sooner than later, that would be awesome. And it would definitely, like you were saying, Dr. Curtis, it would definitely set a precedent for many other districts.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and put this one to rest. Let's talk to Chief Penn. Let's see what the what the financial risk is on something like this. And once we get that information, we can make an educated decision on how we want to move forward with this. I think it's something that we should do, at least in observance. And if it's not during the actual day, somewhere in June before school ends, Juneteenth should be something that's recognized and celebrated and observed. And I think that's something that we can do without, creating a financial burden on our district. Okay. Dr. Curtis, do you have anything else on this matter? Dr. Silver, anything else on this agenda item?
No, thank you for your time though, and your consideration.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us. All right, so we're going to welcome our board chair, Mr. Philip Rigger. Good to see you. Good to have you. One of my heroes. All right, so Dr. Silver, let's start from the original agenda item and let's work our way through. Again, I have a hard stop around 9:45, so let's try to get as much done as possible.
Thank you so much, Pastor AJ, and good morning, everyone. Our first policy on our agenda is the equity policy. And to speak to this, this is a second reading. We have the equity policy and alternative education programs policies. And actually, I think maybe the alternative education programs policies is the first item. Christina, can you pull up the agenda?
Sure. It is the equity. You had it correct.
Oh,
It is the equity policy.
Fantastic. All right. So this policy comes about because we did not have a policy, and certainly the board and the community are passionate about, and our students deserve that their diversity be recognized as a strength, and that we work in support of those strengths to help build them up and support them and their families. So the diversity of our student body, our community, and our staff is a strength of this district that should be fostered, and educational equity benefits all students and our entire community. So the purpose of this policy is to establish a framework for the elimination of bias, particularly racism and cultural bias, as factors affecting student achievement and learning experiences, and to promote learning and work environments that welcome, respect, and value diversity. This is a second reading, and I'm going to transition to showing sharing my screen for the policy. Okay, so apparently, just pull this up here. I can't open it on my computer, but I'm on my desktop, but I will open it here. And this is policy 0523. And our committee has reviewed this very carefully, line by line, and has made revisions to the template, the model policy from CABE, as well as we integrated components from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District, and have added, as you see, the red line instances. We have not received any additional comments from other members of the board.
Yeah, and can I, Dr. Silver, can I just stop right there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so as the chair of the policy committee, for those that may be viewing, hopefully there's a lot of people viewing the policy committee because this is one of the major functions of the board. This has been sent to all board members to give suggestions on and to give their thoughts. Again, our committee has done our due diligence, and I just want that to be said and that to be known. And the purpose for sending this ahead of time is to get good feedback, so we're not wasting our time on the board dialoguing it over the dais, but also, it allows us an opportunity to really think through what we would like to do. So I just want that to be made known. I want that to be public for those that are watching. We just didn't do this in the siloed, with two people figuring out what equity is. This is something that has been looked at for some time. So I apologize, Dr. Silver.
Thank you so much, Reverend AJ. I'm just scrolling through to show the additions of language and the revisions of language of this policy. It's a very comprehensive policy and has alignment with a lot of our existing policies. And here are the legal references for the Connecticut general statutes. And that concludes the review for the second reading of the equity policy. And I
Thank
see
you.
Ms.
Oh, is there a hand up? I can't see.
Yes, sir. Yep. Two hands.
Oh,
Mr.
okay. I see it. Chairman Rigger.
Yeah, Dr. Silva, thank you for that. Board Member Johnson, to the point that you just made, if it hasn't already, I wonder to what extent are we able to share this policy ahead of time with some of our stakeholders? You probably have already done that, but I would say, again, I think when we have this discussion at our next board meeting, let's just make sure to call out the various stakeholders that we engage in this kind of formation of this equity statement.
Mm-hmm. Point taken. And Dr. Silver, can you remind me, have we had any input on this? I know this is something we've been working on for some time. I think it's almost maybe years in the making. Has there been any input?
The most recent policy draft that we have here, which is informed by the CAPE model as well as the Charlotte-Mecklenburg, we have taken it to our Board of Education. We've had it, of course, at a policy committee and then taken it to our Board of Education. So our community has accessed it there, but we haven't specifically shared it out. We could certainly share it out on, certainly I would want to confer with Chief Blackburk, who is our leader when it comes to stakeholder engagement, community partner engagement, and family engagement, to work with her to share this policy out with our partners and our families.
Yeah. So to that point that Chairman Rigger just mentioned, if it's possible before our next meeting to have, if there's a meeting with the SGCs this month, or any particular SGC, let's just make sure it's on their agenda and see if Chief Blackburk can make that happen, or just hand it off to her, because I think engagement is very necessary for a document like this. I think we've done a good job, but again, others may read it differently. So I certainly, before we go to a vote, want to make sure that we have, we check that box and make sure we're doing what our community wants.
Absolutely.
Okay. Board Member Francois.
Yes, good morning again. Thank you. I have a concern about let's see, if you scroll up, but I screenshot it. So the statement, number 4, all students are equally while giftedly different, while differently gifted. I'm wondering or hoping that we could possibly rephrase that because it doesn't appear that all students in the district are equally, they're not treated the same because, I'm thinking about, for example, Renzulli Academy in particular. So the gifted and talented students who are in the district throughout the different schools are taken out of the different schools and placed into one particular area, one particular location. So when I see the word gifted, it reminds me of that. So I'm hoping that we could say perhaps uniquely gifted because everyone isn't equally. Equally is a different, that's a word that that can have, many meanings where there isn't equity.
So do you have a recommendation on how we, so you're saying uniquely while differently gifted? Is that where you want to land on it?
I would say, let me pull it up. All students are uniquely, you could say uniquely gifted or uniquely while differently gifted if you want to put differently, but it's not equal. It really isn't.
Okay, that's a fair point. Okay,
So-
Chairman Riggin.
Yeah, I just want to spend a little time. So I guess I'm trying to understand when you say students are not equal, is it not equal or students are treated equally?
Well, both. I wouldn't say they're equal. They're not, all students are students. However, students are not equally gifted. So every student is unique. Every student may be gifted, but every student is unique. They're not equally gifted.
So I'm wondering if it's all students are treated equally and are uniquely gifted.
I wouldn't even put we would hope that they're treated equally, but students are not treated equally. So I think in the equity statement, we can strive towards treating students equally, but they're not.
So when you say, so I think in my mind, I'm viewing equally meaning are treated positively, right, based on their conditions or their aptitude. I think what I'm hearing from you is students are treated the same, which I think is true. All students are not treated the same.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, and maybe I need to take a closer look at this in the equity statement. Do we have like equal treatment captured here somewhere?
If that were the case, but that's really not the case. And it's not really possible because all students are not, I'm looking at the gifted part and I can't see equally and gifted in the same sentence because every student has an adult, but every student has their own unique qualities that makes them gifted.
Yeah, so why couldn't we say all students are equal while uniquely gifted?
If you want to, well,
I'm trying to understand what's the concern with equal.
Well, the concern, it says, I'm looking at all students are equally while differently gifted. So they're not equally, I would put uniquely as opposed to equally.
Okay,
Because every student is unique. They have their own unique qualities.
okay. I think I'm all students are uniquely gifted.
That's fine. But I wouldn't put equally in there. Because the thing is, equity and equality are like, they're not the same, even though, you know, some folks might want to, you know, look at them synonymous, but equity is giving folks what they need, give each person what they need. And it may not be the same thing. Equally is giving them the same amount. Each person gets the same amount. Where one may need more, one may need less. So that's one of the reasons I want to stay away from that word equally, because it's not equally.
Okay, any other dialogue on this? Dr. Silver, do you have clarity?
I do, sir. I made the edit that Ms. Darcel Ledger identified, but I see that Ms. Darcel Ledger still has her hand up, so I'm not sure if there's a question or another edit.
Sorry, I lower my hand.
Okay.
I guess we lower our hands on our own today. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm joking.
So I do have clarity. I'm going to work with Chief Blackburn to distribute this to families and partners in advance of the second reading at our next board meeting. I'm also going to work with Dr. Negron and Dr. Curtis to ensure that our staff has access to the policy as well and is aware that it's coming up for a second reading. I think that our staff will appreciate the work that our board has done, this committee has done on this.
Okay, and I appreciate the dialogue. I don't have any issue with dialogue in committees, because I think that's where the work is. And I really, again, we did our due diligence and sent it to the board yesterday evening in preparation for this meeting. And so just want to, reiterate that we are trying to get as much input as we can on. So I appreciate the dialogue. And if there's anything else that needs to be changed, please, by all means, send it in, because we want a strong equity statement. And this is something that started under a previous board, I believe under Karen Taylor. And I believe some stuff happened, but now we're back at it, and we're looking to deliver a strong equity policy. All right, so Dr. Silver, I think we are okay to move forward. You summarized very well. Let's move forward in our agenda.
Okay, and as I'm moving forward, I do want to clarify for our gifted and talented program at Renzulli, students are invited to attend, but they are not sent to Renzulli if their family does not wish them to attend. So I just want to clarify that it does. There's always the choice, and there's always a decision that the family makes, and that is academic gifts and talents. We have other schools and other magnet schools, especially, that focus on different areas that speak to other interests and gifts and talents of our students. I just wanted to share that. And I will go to our student attire policy is the next policy. And this was shared with our family and community. We had a family community event actually at the before in the fall or early winter. And we did receive feedback and had a lot of discussion with family members about this policy. And this is up for a second reading at our next Board of Education meeting. And we did have some consolidation and reduction in language in this policy. And our board has received it for a first reading, and all members of the board have had the opportunity to receive and provide feedback on the policy. We do have revisions here that you can see that are redlined. Make this a little bit more accessible for you. We did transition to consolidating language around student uniforms instead of specifying boys and girls and being broader in that description. And our families were very appreciative. So this portion was integrated into the student uniforms portion. That's why there's a lot of redlining there. We also changed the word picnic to celebration to increase cultural sensitivity in the language of the policy. Also, parents had concerns about the quality of the logo patches that were used on uniforms, and so asked for greater clarification and specification that they be high quality or quality logo patches available to students. And also, in reviewing our disciplinary data, we looked at the data from this school year and found that for school dress code policy violations, it was just under 2% of the total number of school policy violations that were related to dress code violations. So just to support and give a little background to this. So school dress code violations of this policy are generally managed at the school level. And there are some schools that have a greater number of school policy violations related to dress code than other schools. But this adds the clarity that our parents were looking for, and also addresses some of the concerns that they had. And that summarizes, we have not received any additional comments, suggestions, edits, or revisions from other members of the board. And I turn this back to you, Pastor AJ.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so one thing that I, in our prep meeting for this call, one thing that I lifted that I'm sure that we'll hear more than likely over the dais is, and if it's not from someone else, it certainly is going to come from me. Just really asking, what are the numbers of young people that may be, expelled or have detention, or, how much harm are we doing with the uniform policy? And I kind of wanted to get a glance of like the last 5 years, probably pre and post pandemic. Just to get an idea of how many uniform related incidences are we having in our schools? Because if the data shows us that there are more kids being suspended or expelled or losing education time due to a uniform, I think that's something that we should know, and we can make the adjustments on. I certainly know when I was a student, I hated wearing uniforms, and I would throw a hoodie over. I'll do everything I could to make it, make it unique and make it my own. And I was out of compliance. I wasn't a bad student. I just had my own identity, but that certainly might have been a, prevention, to me doing more or learning more, so I want to see what those incidences are, just so we can have the proper information before we vote this or bring this to the full board, just to understand and have that information ready and on hand. Are there any questions or any comments around our school uniform policy? Board Member Francois.
Hi, thank you again. I'm looking at the scarves, for example. Who will determine, or how will we be able to determine what a religious belief is. Is it a traditional religious belief or a cultural aspect of a religious belief? Because folks can, be creative and say, well, I'm wearing this scarf because of my religion. So are we going to question that, or are we going to accept that?
That's a good question, and Dr. Silver, feel free to answer.
Thank you so much, Pastor AJ. So we do have administrative regulations that are used at the schools, and there are instances such as a hijab where someone would wear a headscarf as in alignment with their religious beliefs, but any kind of disciplinary consequence is something that will need to be managed at the school level, and our staff will be briefed on which instances are related to a known religion, and certainly can deliver on that inquiry in their own school setting, in terms of determining whether or not, a call home may be warranted for the administrator to learn more about an emerging religious practice that the family can confirm. But I trust the common sense of our school leaders to follow up with families and understand and teach themselves and their staff about any emerging religious practices that require particular articles of clothing.
May I just add one more thing?
By all means.
Thank you so much. So there are religions that have been around for centuries, if you will. And I think that cultural competency will be a very important piece. So educating the individuals who are going to be policing or monitoring the uniforms would be critical, I believe, to prevent any embarrassment or unnecessary or mistaken disciplinary actions, if you will.
Thank you, Ms. Darristelle-Ledger. We will certainly, that is a great point. And I think as part of our rollout with our staff about updates to this policy, we can include that learning for them. So thank you so much for lifting that.
Okay, awesome. If there isn't any more comment, we can move on to our next agenda item.
Okay, and I'm pulling up the agenda. I believe, oh my goodness, I did this backwards. We were supposed to do the alternative education programs as a second reading. I'm so sorry. Actually, let me just pull up our agenda. Yes, equity policy and alternative education programs. So I do have this. The alternative education programs is up for a second reading. So let me just share my screen. Here we go. Okay, I'm sorry, the uniforms was supposed to be a first reading, and I've just maybe looked at it so many times that I thought we were at a second reading, but we were at a first reading for that. But let's go to the alternative education programs, which is up for a second reading. And our board saw this at their last policy meeting. And there are, this is based on the model policy from CABE and alternative education. This is a mandated policy, and alternative education means a school or program maintained and operated by the board, by the district, that's offered to students in non-traditional educational settings that addresses social, emotional, behavioral, and academic needs of learners. So there's a wide range of alternative education programs, and we currently have a number of them in the district, such as New Visions and adult education, OPP as a partner for students who are over age and under credit, as well as Hope One and Hope Two academies. So this policy, we have not received any emails or updates from our board members when it came to for a first reading at our last board meeting. And so this policy is up for a second reading. And I, again, regret the error with the student attire. But this is a mandated policy again, that we would need to adopt to have in our policy manual. And I turn this back over to you, Pastor AJ.
Thank you. Are there any comments or concerns regarding our alternative education programming? This is something that you know, I think we should really take a look at, because I can't remember how many alternative education programs we have. I think we have 4 or 5 in our district. I could be wrong, but we all know what alternative education is, and we know what it means. And I want to make sure that we have policy that supports our students in that space, so that they're prepared to leave that, you know, leave that program and be productive in our society. So is this, can you repeat, is this our second reading or first reading on this?
This is our second reading.
Second reading, all right. You had me confused for a moment. Certainly the second reading. Are there any questions, or if there are any, you know, anything you want to add to this or may have questions about to make this certainly improved? Obviously, we have up into our board meeting to do so. So if you're not well versed with our alternative education programs, you know, by all means, please take a look and give some feedback. Any other questions before I move forward? Any comments? All right, Dr. Silver, I think we're ready to move forward.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, I created
No
confusion.
sweat. Stop apologizing. No,
Okay.
no sweat.
So we're
Mistakes
all
happen.
set with this, and we will move forward with a second reading at our next board meeting for, I think we've just spent a lot of time on student attire. So our next item on our agenda is student attire, and we will, this is for a first reading, and I talked through many of the changes that we worked on with our.
Yeah, we can move forward.
Okay, so we'll take the student attire policy to the next board meeting for our first reading, and we'll move on to school governance. And the School Governance Council, we also met with parents in January regarding the School Governance Council. And just open this up. We got a lot of great feedback and engagement from our families as a result of that meeting. So there is a policy number change. It is now policy 1110.3, and that was adopted in November of 2021. There was a change in the legislation that allows for 4 terms for elected members. And so as I scroll through, our policy was really in good shape except for that change. And here it is in the redlining. And otherwise, there were no major revisions. Again, because of the work that Chief Blackburk does with our school governance councils, there was an update to legal references, but those systems, those practices are in very good shape and working very effectively in our schools. So with that said, Pastor AJ, there's the one major edit that was made in alignment with the legislative update.
Okay. And that's the line that's striked out in red, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. This is actually a really good policy, and it's had parent engagement. So I'll never go against the parents. So are there any comments and questions on this? All right, hearing no comments and questions, we're gonna, I think we're good to move forward, Dr. Silver.
Okay, thank you so much. We will move forward with a first reading of the revisions to the School Governance Council policy. And I'm going to bring us to this page right here, which is our agenda. Okay, so what we have here, item C are recodifications or recoding. When we did the initial major recodification in November of 2021, we had some policies that we had to hold out because we wanted to review and make sure that there was no overlap. And so what we discovered was 4 policies that did have overlap. So these changes are revisions to this policy. We have a policy that was recodified to 6200. So this change would adjust this policy number to be just 1531, the district accreditation. The report cards, again, just the number of the policy changes from 6142 to the updated 6146.12. Then the grading policy also needs to be updated. That transitions or would transition from 6146 to 6146.1. And smoking and tobacco use needs to transition from the 4000 series numbers that apply to certified and non-certified staff to from 4118.51 to 4118.232, and from 4218.51 to 4218.232. So those are the recodifications. Otherwise, there are no changes in the language of the policy. It's just a number change on the policy number itself.
All right with you?
Yep. Is that the end?
That's an overview of the policies. I believe that they may have gone out in an email just so that you could reference them, maybe not. Okay, so certainly I can open the policies and review them if you'd like, but these are the changes to them. So you can see here, this is the only redlining on this policy where the number changes, and we're removing the 6200 on this one, transitioning to add the 0.12 on the report cards policy. Again, and many of our members are familiar with this because we did so much work in November of 2021 on this, and smoking and tobacco use. So there is that policy, and there are no other red lines other than to provide the date.
Number. Yep.
Yes, Sarah. Yep.
All right. Are there any questions? This is pretty straightforward, but I'll certainly entertain some questions if there are questions or comments. Well, that's good because I certainly had oh, there we are. I was about to say, like, I want to see if this question is the same question I had. Go ahead, Board Member Francois.
So I'm just for the record, I just want to confirm that the only thing that's changing is the number and no language.
Yep, that was my question, and I believe the answer is correct. There are no policies being changed. I think we're just recodifying the numbers on the policies to be up to date with, I believe, state standard or CABE standard.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments or concerns? I would have been very concerned if no one asked that question, to be honest. All right, Dr. Silver, I think we're ready to move forward. I think you've done a phenomenal job explaining this.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to stop my share for a minute. Our last item on the agenda.
We have two more, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me
Go ahead, Christina. Do you want to?
Yep, no worries. So we did move Juneteenth up to the beginning of the meeting, so Dr. Curtis can hop off the call. We also have, as we all know, our chairperson, Mr. Regard, established a legislative and advocacy task force while we ran establishing a standing committee through the process. So we do have it here today for discussion and for possible first read if I think we have 4 board members on the call, enough to make a decision as to whether it needs more work or we decide to move it for a first reading. I did reach out to CABE and they sent me this sample of the bylaw that they have. There's one on the left and then there's another version to consider on the right, a little more substantial. And in a brief meeting with Dr. Silver and Reverend Johnson yesterday, we kind of both agreed that the second, another version was a little more substantial and better, but I will let the board members, and I don't know if Chairperson Phil, if you're on the call, if you want to make any other comments as to this.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and I actually have to run to 9:30, which I'm late for, but I think I've been very clear on this. In addition to a policy committee and our fiduciary responsibilities as board members, again, I think we need to have this standing committee to be very proactive. I just feel as though there are times where we're just too much in a reactive mode from a legislation perspective. So very much look forward to this committee to bring this forth. As I think I said in another committee meeting, not looking necessarily to expedite the process, but what I will say is I don't want to waste time, right? So if it takes us 3 or 4 months to get this committee standing up, that's great. But I also want to make sure that we do it in the appropriate and transparent manner. So again, I very much hope I have the support from my colleagues. I truly believe that this is an important committee that we need as Hartford Board of Ed.
Very clear. Any other
And
comments? Go ahead.
And I do apologize, I do have to run. But thank you again for the time.
Thank you for joining us and thank you for your outstanding leadership. Yes,
Very
go ahead.
quick, just some clarification. Thank you, Chair. So I was just quickly reading both sides, and I do agree that the second version, another version to consider, is much more substantial. My only comment, and I don't know where we stood with it, but as we decide to create this legislative committee, you know, the makeup of that committee, right? Are we going to have certain community members in there who have a voting, have a say? Like, I feel like we just need to nail down on like what the board's going to be, what those responsibilities going to be for those non-board member committee members, all that things. I think just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other comments? Any other suggestions on which gives the best description? All right, so Christina and Dr. Silver, not hearing any other comment. I would say let's just float the second one out to the board for first reading.
Okay.
And let's get it in their inboxes before the and I'm sure we've done some of that already, but you know, let's get it in their inboxes just so they can have some time to review it and at least come to the first reading, you know, with some dialogue if they have some.
Understood.
All right, I think we're ready to move forward.
Yes, our last item is bylaw 9020, the public statement. I think what the chairperson's main concern here was expanding, not just press releases or as far as board communication to the community, to any out-facing stakeholder. Right now, the policy doesn't cover all the areas. And as we all know, board members are very active in the community. They're members of different organizations. So I think you wanted to make sure that we had a policy in place as to when you speak as a board member, what that covered. So I don't know if I have not made any edits or suggestions here for this one. This might be just a discussion but again, I'll follow your lead, Reverend Johnson, on that. But I wanted to make sure to bring it because I know he was.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Members of the Board of Education, I think that active comprehensive. Yeah, and so for those who may be watching us on YouTube, at any point in time around education, if you ask any board member their thoughts or feelings on a particular matter or issue, you'll probably get 9 different, you know, perspectives. And so that makes it challenging for it just makes it very challenging in the community. So we're trying to centralize the location, the information, and by all means, board members' roles are important. And so I don't think the intent of this is to take any authority away from our board members, but we also have to be responsible with the information that is being communicated in the community regarding the work of the board and what we do. So like anything else, we have to put some parameters around what that is and what that looks like. And this is an attempt to do so. Again, this is not to dim anybody's light or you know, put a cloud over anyone's sunshine. But we as the board have the responsibility to relay proper information, accurate information to the community. And that's what we pay our superintendent to do. And she should be doing it. And, you know, board members should be inviting the superintendent places to speak on behalf of our education system. So that's all I have to say about that. I guess you're looking for me for guidance on whether we should push this to a first reading?
Yeah, or yes, either push it for, well, actually, I don't have the language. So,
Yeah, well, I would say
Mhm.
let's hold it until we have something solid to
okay.
put out there.
So I'll circulate with the
Ira,
board members.
Yep, Francois, how do you all feel about that decision?
I agree with you. Some language first, even if it's basic.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree as well. I just have a question. So you're, or this is pretty much for the board, like if a board member speaks out, it's not speaks out, but pretty much comments on a certain education issue or whatever, it's the board member as an individual speaking, but not representing the board, or can I have some clarity?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, so again, the bottom line is, and Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, the spirit of this is to centralize information. Of course, board members are elected, board members are appointed. We have different spaces in the community where we operate. But when there is misinformation, it makes it challenging to go and correct. And so I think that this intent is to streamline that level of communication, but certainly Christina, you can chime in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just the difference between speaking as an individual board member, like this is my opinion, versus speaking on behalf of the board and the district. Just clarifying that. Because again, not to stem or for what I believe is the intent, not to stop information or sharing, but just maybe clarifying that I'm not speaking on behalf of the full board. It's just my personal view.
Correct.
Mhm.
Right. So when I go out, I don't speak on behalf of the board. I say this. When I speak on education issues, I always say I'm not the chair, nor am I the superintendent. So this, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Board of Education. But so for, and then I make my point and move forward. Just make it clear I'm not speaking of the entire board. But again, this is something that we can take some time with and develop, and get done. It doesn't have to happen today, but this is something that we can walk lightly on. Okay, any other thoughts, questions, ideas? If there are none, Sharice, are you there? Sharice? That's her name, right? Sharice?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here, Reverend AJ. Sorry, I had to find the unmute.
Yeah, before I end this meeting, do you have anything you'd like to say or any good news? Come on camera, let us see your face, smile at us. You just be spying in these meetings, man.
I do.
Oh,
I'm
there she
actually
is. She's actually a
outside
real person.
enjoying the weather while I work. So, no, thank you for allowing me to be here and listen in so I can continue to support and cohere on matters of the district.
No
I
doubt.
appreciate you all.
Well,
No
we
doubt.
appreciate Sharice. Believe me, it's so vital behind the scenes and helping everything move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, she's behind the scenes. I don't know who this lady is coming up. All right. Well, cool. That officially, if there's no other business to be done, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for making our school system better through policy. Have a phenomenal day.